Time to wake up. Time to wake up. Time to wake up. Never sleep again.
They put the truth in the movies and lies throughout the news. They manufacture opinions and form all of your views. Everything we think we know is actually opposite of the truth. But what do you do when reality's fraudulent? The whole system is rigged, it's an illusion of choice. You can keep screaming and yelling, end up losing your voice. What's the point? What's the point? That's what I ask sometimes. Roll a joint, smoke that joint, and then I smash some rhyme. I'm still a slave, but that boy overdose is hard to control. How far will he go? Much further than you possibly know. ODD TV, I've been doing this. I have to get deep, because half of you are asleep, the other half are just sheep. Wakey, wakey, wake the fuck up, man. I'm really sick of this. They rub the truth all up in our faces and it's ridiculous. They always keep the odds stacked against us and we can't seem to win. After seeing all the things I've seen, I'll never sleep again.
Everything is a lie. Slave till the day you die. World full of believing. I'll never sleep again. Rules that you must obey. Can't seem to get away. It's making my head spin. I'll never sleep again.
Time to wake up. Time to wake up. Time to wake up. Never sleep again. Time to wake up. Time to wake up. Time to wake up. Never sleep again.
We live in a prison queue, ruled over by the hexagon. Nothing but witchcraft and black magic spelled in your lexicon. Search till the day you're dead and gone. There's gotta be some way out of here. Looking up at the sky, just watching chemical clouds appear. They got these toxic heavy metals filling up your body. You're a zombie, unaware that you serve the Illuminati. Man, how's your head feel after taking that red pill? When you learn the truth, it's scary. You can barely stand still. The Matrix is a computer-generated dreamland. Most certainly you're a worker bee for the queen, man. They lie to us about outer space and the earth is flat. They're killing us with the food they sell us. What's worse than that? You may wake up, but that doesn't mean the world's gonna change. It can stress you out, make you depressed, or fill you up with rage. We're in a cage, the whole world is nothing but a stage. And we're almost there, so be prepared for the coming age.
Everything is a lie. Slave till the day you die. World full of believing. I'll never sleep again. Rules that you must obey. Can't seem to get away. It's making my head spin. I'll never sleep again.
Here we go again. Time to wake up. Time to wake up. Time to wake up. Never sleep again. Time to wake up. Time to wake up. Time to wake up. Never sleep again.
Everything is a lie. Slave till the day you die. World full of believing. I'll never sleep again. Rules that you must obey.
Time to wake up. Time to wake up.
It's making my head spin. I'll never sleep again.
Never sleep again.
Here we are at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and focused in on the Altgeld Hall. Construction began on June 10th, 1896, and took a little over a year to complete, which is not an issue in the 1800s. Of course, we all know this by now, which is completely insane. 1 year to build this in 1896? And what is with the current day construction on these places? First Detroit, now here. In both places, they aren't even doing anything that I can see. Are they just putting up scaffolding and just going to take a picture and make it black and white to make it look old and rewrite the history and pretend like it's just being built again? I wouldn't be shocked at all if they do this all the time and we're just figuring this out. And are you ready to blow the narrative away? Are you ready to have some fun this week? Let's do it. There were so many architects that could draw like this in the 1800s that they needed to hold a design contest. Are you kidding me? And this isn't even the best part. Let's keep reading. The trustees awarded the prize to Edward, a young man with no experience in building design. I'm not gonna lie to you, the first time I read this, I laughed out loud. How insane is this? Young Edward gets to build this, and he has no experience in building ever in his whole life. Take a look at this place. This place is more impressive than pretty much anything we construct today. Yet it was built in a year by a random guy who has no previous experience. What have we just found? I feel like this should open everyone's eyes at this point. This is not logical thinking to believe this insane story. Now, if you continue reading below, they say the cornerstone was laid on September 11th. Interesting. So not June like we're told earlier. So 13 months and this thing was all wrapped up and ready to use. No mention of any construction company, of course. No mention of how many construction workers were needed. Where did the materials come from? Nothing. Just simply finished. Now, we have talked about bells before, and how, of course, in my opinion, and many others' opinion, the previous civilization were extremely aware of frequencies and sound vibration healing powers. These bells were no ordinary bells. This building is holding the Altgeld chimes. Installed atop the 132-foot tower are 15 bells, weighing a total of 7.5 tons. At this point, this building's narrative is beyond sketchy. Which company was responsible for the bell installation? Supposedly, this was a gift from a graduation class, but the fact that it no longer works should raise a few eyebrows. Does it not work anymore because it is now hundreds of years old? In my opinion, yes. I'm just gonna be honest. I am 99.9% sure this was a gift, but not from a graduation class. It was a gift from a past civilization, and we have no idea how to operate it. Each lever is marked with a musical note, giving it almost a complete chromatic scale. Is anyone else's graduation class giving away complete chromatic scale bells 132 feet in the air this year? Of course not. The Altgeld Hall, amazing stuff. I was going to go over the Alpha Delta Phi fraternity house, which was also supposedly built in just 1 year, but I kept scrolling down and of course, it was demolished in 2018. They got to it before we did, which is another reason why this research is very important right now. We all need to understand which building to look out for. There should be no demolition going on without us even noticing. And I wouldn't be able to find another old world building on this campus, would I? Well, of course I will. But it also wouldn't be built in 1 year, would it? You bet it is. The Alpha Gamma Delta Fraternity House. And this one is still here. But wait, what is this? Did the narrator get lazy and use the same sentence for multiple buildings and think that nobody would ever notice? French style. Popularized in America after World War I, was it? Well, if you didn't catch it the first 2 times, here they write the same sentence, yet again, for another building. So we definitely know that we have the same author for these narratives. And is this individual trustworthy? All of these narratives are no longer considered the truth in my eyes. Now let's continue. Again, I have mentioned in past episodes how I am fully confident in my opinion that these current day college buildings all around the United States, and for that matter, around the world, are found and repurposed. They are the reason that a college or university now sit on that specific site. And of course, the sorority groups get the good buildings. And as I've mentioned in the past, normally an architect will get the nod for a few old world buildings. A great way to explain them away with one guy. As for this George Ramsay guy, he was in charge of this masterpiece that was built in a quick year, as well as the Virginia Theater, located right down the road, and built 7 years before in 1921. They don't give any information on how long the construction process was, so it probably only took a couple hours in 1921. And here we have a restoration process that didn't seem like much of a restoration process, and rather a demolition and replacement process. The locals were not happy, and this is when you know they removed things that were from the old world. So I went and I walked around this area a little, and found this building. This used to be the United States Post Office. Now it is a cultural center. It's not the name that I'm interested in, obviously. Look at these windows. They were constructed before this road. They had to leave space here so that they didn't close the windows up. This is crazy stuff. In my opinion, this is proof that this building and many other buildings in this area are much bigger than we can see. How can anyone look at this building and not have questions? Windows under the ground level, but needing to chop out the road, so that the windows aren't underground leading to nothing. How many of these buildings have exactly that? When you go in their basements, you look out the window and all you see is dirt. And over here, right across the street, you can clearly see that these buildings were here before the roads. Look at how they have filled these windows in, and how the sidewalk is coming up higher and higher on the building, covering more and more of the building as we go. Even this closed up window right here is basically underground now. This is not the way it was originally constructed at all. It's very strange. And I bet you anything that this building has windows in the basement that look straight at the dirt or are covered up with brick. And if anyone thinks that this is normal, to brick up your windows on so many old world buildings, I totally agree with you. I'm actually gonna go brick up all my windows on my house right now. And half of my other window in the back is gonna look like it's going underground. And the other half will be above ground. And that's completely normal. No, it's not. How ridiculous does that sound? And yet, we see it all over the world. The time for walking past these buildings, unaware of what's right next to us, needs to end. We all know, deep down, that these buildings have a deeper meaning, a hidden past. We can feel it just by looking at it. They are different. They hold the keys to the past civilization. These buildings are in nearly every town in the world. And like we saw today with the Alt-Guild Hall in Urbana. But did you know that there's another Alt-Guild Hall in Illinois? I'll be visiting this castle building and hopefully walking through it very soon. Oh, and there's another one at Southern Illinois University, of course. It's very clear that this civilization was worldwide. This architecture blows ours away. It lasts forever, and it doesn't need our help. We've proven that it withstands earthquakes, and it wasn't built by a random guy that doesn't have any previous experience in just a year. That I can guarantee you. When you understand that the previous civilization was able to construct like this, you can then go deeper and ask, what else were they capable of? What other technology did they have? And what other technology did they leave behind, just waiting for us to discover it, like we're beginning to right now? Through forensic photo analysis, I found a massive historical cover-up. I started by looking at photos from the late 1800s to the early 1900s. This specific photo caught my eye. Something was off, and that's when I zoomed in on it. The tree line has clearly been altered. It's much darker behind the trees, where the editor got lazy and didn't wipe out the sky. And this was just the beginning of it. Because when I see one flaw, I know that it's time to investigate. A forensic photo analysis uses algorithms that we can determine if it's a real photo, computer generated, or if it was modified and edited. So I sent the photo into the forensic photo analysis, and the results were shocking. We clearly have something in the sky that has been removed from this photo. Before I give my thoughts on what it is, I just want all of you to look at it for a second and let me know in the comments below what you think that is. I'll also show you a comparison to another photo that I had analyzed to show that having a figure in the sky is not random and not normal. There was something here in this photo, and it's been edited out. It's undeniable. It's been removed to hide it from our timeline. In my opinion, this was an airship. We were never supposed to understand just how popular this free form of transportation really was. It was much more powerful than we could ever imagine. Here we have a castle. Oh, did I say castle? I meant courthouse. We have the Royal Courts of Justice, located in London, England, where for some weird reason, they just couldn't decide on a design for this project. There were so many designs coming in with master plans that they needed to hold a design competition, which was very common back in the 1800s, because of course these 1800s people were just brilliant. It was very simple stuff back then. They just weren't distracted. They worked harder than us. And as long as they could draw it on a piece of paper with their feather, Donkeys Incorporated had the construction side of things down. Never an issue in the 1800s. So the competition began in 1866, 158 years ago, and ended in 1867. After 12 architects drew up their master plans, something that nobody will ever create again today, they supposedly had 12 guys in just London that could draw this type of thing up. We have a total of 0 people that could draw this up and get it constructed in the entire world, let alone just London. 158 years ago, according to the mainstream narrative, this was, of course, no problem at all. Very simple stuff. So in 1868, they picked George Street. He was the champion of this contest. He went and got Messrs. Bull and his sons. Because in the 1800s, every single construction company in the whole world has to have sons at the end of it for some reason. Going back to the great Samuel Hannaford's and Sons, and there's many other examples throughout the episodes. In my opinion, this is another clear pattern, proving that the AI is generating these names all over the world. Now, just to put this all into perspective, if we are trusting the mainstream story, only 57 years prior to all of this happening, Abe Lincoln, a president of the United States, was being born in this masterpiece. And all over London, we have the interior, holding more than 1,000 rooms that include various meeting chambers, administrative offices, and at least, but could be more, than 78 courtrooms. Additionally, there are 3.5 miles of corridors, and supposedly have all of this being constructed, even though we're told that the Masons led a serious strike in the beginning of the project. Bullcrap and Sons had to find more master builders, which, of course, was simple stuff in the 1800s. There was plenty to go around. So they were able to get some from Germany, and they knocked this entire thing out with perfection. And it will last forever. And even though there were some issues finding new people to construct this place, it wasn't a problem, really. They got the whole thing done and settled in just 8 years. Are you on the fence? Should we go deeper? Not only was this done with perfection, the winner of the contest, George Street, as we have seen so many times before, dies before the project was completed. This is so repetitive, where the winner of a design competition doesn't live to see the end of the project, and they're able to just bring anybody else in to finish it. Doesn't matter who. Everybody could do this back in the 1800s with ease. So then we have the Church of St. Mary, the Virgin Ivanhoe. And this will all tie together, but this was found around 800 years ago, in the year 1220, or 1222, which, I mean, come on. It was the booming 1200s. They worked by moonlight. Very busy people, very dedicated. Lots of skilled hunters and gatherers. Without a power tool in sight. Actually, 673 years away from a power tool, supposedly. And of course, the building will be there forever. They are addicted to lying, because it is thought that an even older church may have originally stood here. I'm just surprised they didn't say that the first one burned down in a fire. The church was, of course, rebuilt, for some reason, in the year 1234, which was only 12 years after they say they found it. And they say that some of the original features survived. Survived? Wait, why are they rebuilding it? What happened? Did I miss some? Oh, you gotta be joking. 4 years after they found it, it supposedly burned down in a fire. To believe these stories, it would take some effort at this point. And I'm just gonna be honest with you. In my opinion, that isn't even the craziest part of the story. Let's go even deeper. But before we do that, I just want to show you all the reoccurring AI-generated names really quick. We have Richard Blackhead and Richard Seward. So we have two Richards. And of course, Peter Desroches and Peter Checkapork. So we got two Peters and two Richards. We have more builders in London that like to build with their sons, John Warner and Sons, with, of course, another John down here at the bottom, John Downcombe, where he has two wives, marries both of them. And one's named Mary. We have John Downcombe, and of course, we can't forget about the other Downcombe, Thomas, and the other one, William. And for the best part of this name generator, William married two people, Mary and Alice, spelled A-L-I-C-E. John Downcombe. Guess who he marries? Do I even need to say it? I think we all know at this point what her name will be. Another Alice, spelled A-L-Y-C-E. If you're new to this and on the fence, if the AI is generating these names, this is not the first time that this has happened. You're gonna wanna check out episode 43 and all the reoccurring names in that one. Are we having fun? Are we ready for the best part? Remember, when we are told about the George Street guy, you know, the guy that died in the middle of the 1,000 room palace project that was done in 8 years, 158 years ago? Guess who the AI just had to add in here to try to explain this one away as well? Mr. George Edmund Street. When in 1871 to 1872, he of course knocked out some Victorian Gothic revival style elements and built the north and south porches, as well as a medieval style baptistry. Of course he did. None of that was original, and this is totally believable. Oh, wait, it isn't? No, this was here long before anyone named George Street came around, and he did not do any medieval style construction in a year, 153 years ago. This was constructed by the previous civilization that was much more advanced than we are today. And now that we know that George Street is a pawn in their generated system, it's time to investigate even further. I have located George Street in all of his supposed projects. And remember, in the 1800s, he was doing projects that we cannot recreate today. In just 1 year, George Street was supposedly born in 1824. How old do you think he was when he was completing his first building? 35 would be shocking. 30 is insane. We are told that George Street got to work and built the St. Mary's Church in 1848, making Street just 24 years old. And if you go onto this church's website, they say he was 22, where his sister, an embroiderer, heard of a Cornish clergyman and needed a new church built. Who better to ask than a 22 or 24-year-old clerk? His sister, Mary, prevailed to give her inexperienced brother the commission for his brand new church. The rest, as they say, is his story. So obviously, this is ridiculous. And we need to keep digging because, wait, are they really gonna keep doing this today? What was his sister's name again? And what is the church's name? Both named Mary? Okay, I think at this point we can be sure that they won't do it again. Right? No way. George Street, his name is George. What is the guy's name that is building the building that hired George Street? They're not gonna tell us that this guy's name is also George. If they say that his name is George, then I don't know what I'm gonna do, but what is Reverend PlAiN's name? You know, the Cornish clergyman who intended to build the new Street Mary Church, where George's sister Mary went and asked George PlAiN. I knew it was the AI before. I don't get shocked at things very often. This one is just so in your face. It's incredible. The good old Cornish clergyman giving away work in Cornwall. Amazing. I think we can do a few episodes on this first George Street, and probably a few episodes on the second George and all the Marys. Let me know if you want me to dig more into their narrative. So George Street, the first George, the 22 or 24-year-old master builder. Remember, he was constructing this 1,000-room courthouse in London for 7 years because he was kicked out of the script a year before it got done in 1882. And remember, episode 52, this is the exact same time period where you have all this chaos going on around the world. Nobody is focused on these narratives. You have all these millions of orphans all over the USA. You have the Civil War going on. You have slavery. You have all these insane high-intensity type events going on all over the place. People were not looking into George Street and the hundreds of buildings that they were pinning on this character. In fact, even if they wanted to, it wasn't written in a book yet. And they didn't have the resources to prove anything. So they just had to simply believe it. And everyone accepted it as the truth. Until now. 1873 to 1881, George Street is pinned as the man in charge of the Royal Courts of Justice for those 8 years. I would love to know if he was fully focused on this project, one that we could never reproduce today in 8 years. And we have shown the Kleksinski building in Chicago, where it is a basic box that took our civilization 14 years to build, from 1960 to 1974. Or was George so good at his job that he could also get multiple other projects done at the exact same time? 1873 to 1881, George has been pinned and said to have had 42 other projects going on at the exact same time. Still believing the mainstream narrative? They tell us that the Linenwold Castle, located in Ambler, Pennsylvania, was designed by Milton Bean and built in 1890 without any details on its construction. It's just done in 1890. Where Madison lived in the castle with his second wife, Mary, where after Madison died, the new people turned this palace into an orphanage called St. Mary's. Mary. So we have a massive castle, done in 1 year or less. And for decades, that's all we needed to hear for it to be true. Until now, where we understand that logically, that is impossible, especially 134 years ago. And especially when it's a castle straight out of the old world civilization's home improvement catalog. Here on HiS-OUR, in the middle of this story that has zero logistical details or anything relevant to actually building anything, and just has a bunch of nonsense, like naming sons royal, retired business partners, and telling us how many rooms are in this castle that they found. They do give us a tip, and the tip is the Windsor Castle. The sentence reads that Madison might have chose to model his castle after the Windsor Castle, which is the most popular answer. And it's the most popular answer among which group? Because that is definitely not the most popular answer to us, but they think it might be modeled after another castle nearby, and they all dispute it. for years and years. And remember, it's all nonsense. We have no idea who this group is that they tell us that this is the most popular thought. What I see in all of this is one thing: the Windsor Castle. And I want to see what year they say this Windsor Castle was built in, because I bet you it is connected to this castle. And this castle in Pennsylvania might have actually been built hundreds of years ago, if not thousands. And they will give it all away with this Windsor Castle connection, located in Berkshire, Windsor, built in 1070, over 954 years ago, as a fortress, and covers 484,000 square feet of living space, divided into about 1,000 rooms. So something is extremely clear here. We are 100% being lied to about our history, and we all know that. But I have to say it out loud, because 1,000 years ago, they are building 1,000 room fortresses with ease. And it of course lasts forever, no questions asked. And today we have evolved so much that we can't build a sidewalk without stepping in it before it dries. Now, this is my opinion, but I can see them adding this Windsor Castle into the narrative for a specific reason. And I personally think it's to connect the dates, that these castles are from nearly 1,000 years ago, when the previous civilization that had all the technology, had proper training, and had the logistics down. Instead of the opposite happening, where we are told that there were no classes in castle building at the local community college in the year 1070, where they would go home to their sheds and sleep with candlelight, freezing using barn hay as beds, and then waking up again traveling by horse and wagon to pull stone and granite miles on a trail, and getting this 1,000 room fortress done no problem. The timeline is clearly all over the place at this point. They could have told us that it was built in the year 1045. It would have made no difference, and people would have just believed it until you start digging deeper, which we are doing here. Episode 41 is awesome at showing the proper logistics of a project, if you're interested in that after this. The castle has, of course, 300 fireplaces and 379 clocks. Do any of our towns have any upcoming plans to knock a 1,000 room, 300 fireplace fortress out in the next few years? What about half that? No? With our modern construction, 1,000 years after they did this, we should be able to do this with ease, since they did, without a power tool in sight. Supposedly, we have a better education system, so we are told. We have more knowledge than ever, supposedly. What is wrong with this picture? I would say a lot. Do you understand that something is wrong with the timeline? Something massive? Can we all see the lie very clearly now? We have been lied to about all of this, starting around the year 1800, and possibly right before that, where everything in our timeline began. And the old world buildings from the previous civilization are still here for us to see, in every city, with insane narratives to try to fit them into this lie, where we are told that people from 1,000 years ago were less than us, worse off, and we are told that we have all this brand new technology in the last 200 years. Everything is brand new. Every company was created recently, all over the world. Is that not strange to you? And we're told this new technology has never been here before. Planes, trains, cars, phones, computers, internet, and the AI, when it has. And in my opinion, it's been here many times before. We went into Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and got boots on the ground footage, and learned a lot about this town. And it carried on into episode 42, where we learned all about their tunnel system. And we exposed a ton about this location. And I think this triggered something. On October 9th, 2023, Fox 11 News reported that Oshkosh, Wisconsin had a road construction project going on, where they, for some weird random reason, needed to delay the project. This is when archaeologists were just randomly in the area and working on the site. I'm just gonna ask the AI ChatGPT if archaeologists are normally present during road construction. No, archaeologists are not always present during road construction projects. So we definitely have something weird going on here. And they found an extensive village. Are you ready to see what they found? Did this community that we've built trigger a destruction project in Oshkosh? In my opinion, this is exactly what happened. So they say that the Cultural Resource Management Project has been working with the city since the start of the road resurfacing project. Road resurfacing? They're not building a new road. This is not making any logical sense. A road resurfacing project happens all the time, and you definitely don't need government programs or agencies there, or archaeologists for these small road resurfacing projects. The cultural resource management programs are typically established and enforced by government agencies to protect archaeological, historical, and cultural sites and resources. So are you ready to fully understand what is going on here? Are you ready to see why I think we triggered this? Here we go. Because of the history of the area, The archaeologists already knew that there were archaeological deposits on both sides of the existing road. The old world was there for decades, and they knew this. And now that we have just gone there, they need to cover it up or destroy it. And there was a high likelihood of remnants under the existing road. What kind of remnants would they be talking about? And that's exactly what researchers have found. Unbelievable stuff. We all know that there was a much more advanced civilization that lived here before our current timeline. A civilization that was able to construct the Cologne Cathedral, or the St. Mark's Basilica, and all of these towns, including Oshkosh, that have been hidden from us and explained away by saying that they were just ancients. They were from thousands of years ago. So basically implying to us that we were not supposed to question it, when in reality, this advanced group of people were not here thousands of years ago, and instead, relatively recent. It's a village site, so a place where people lived in the past. Should we continue to see what they found? Remember, they have admitted to already knowing that all of this was here, and they are just now doing something with it. But because they are doing something with it, they have to explain it away with all of this nonsense. I believe, in my opinion, that they are removing anything that could give away the fact that this was not from 1,000 years ago. They are removing all of the things that this community would take and run with. This is shocking stuff. They admit to finding houses. Finding houses? Are you kidding me? Under the dirt? Mud flood, anyone? So what's going on here? There's a considerable amount of cultural items that they also found, as well as cultural materials associated with the places that people would have lived in the past civilization. Can we see this stuff right now on a live stream? No. Do any of us trust these people to share everything that they have found with us? Remember, they knew all of this was here, which is the craziest part. So these people are taking a guess that this civilization was here from the time period of 900 to 1600, which is the exact same time period that we are discussing here. Literally right before the 1800s, a major event took place and wiped the previous civilization out. I'm stunned right now, to be honest with you. It will, of course, all be preserved eventually, once the road resurfacing project resumes. Who here believes that? If they knew this was here, what else are they aware of that we aren't being told about all around the world? Now, we are going to begin with the Milwaukee City Hall. I have a few other places that we're going to investigate today, where the mainstream narrative is lying straight to our faces. To knocking that one down, and upgrading to this, and seeing evolution hitting us square in the face. I'm glad that once we actually got power tools, the buildings really took off, and the architecture just blew us all away, with perfect 90-degree angles. So let's all have some fun today, and open our eyes even further. As promised, here we are in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that was supposedly designed by architect Henry C. Okay. So we have another childish fictional character that the narrator likes to be all weird about, as we have seen so many times before, constantly making names that are inside jokes for middle school kids. Now, of course, due to Milwaukee's historic German immigrant population, many of the surrounding buildings mirror this incredible design. Wow, okay. Interesting. So as long as we just have a lot of German people, buildings in the unbelievable Flemish Renaissance revival style that could never be recreated today, and never have, and never will just magically appear. Did you guys know this? I had no idea this was a thing. But thanks to the mainstream narrative, now we know. We should all give this a try sometime. What a joke. Especially because this was built by a contest winner in the 1800s. Anyone that rode around on a horse or a donkey qualified for the contest in the 1800s. Every single one of them. They all had this kind of architecture embedded into their DNA. There were so many of them that they needed to hold contests all over the world to shed off all of the competition. It's strange though, because once the 1900s hit, not a single person ever had what it took to get one of these buildings completed, which is completely backwards from what we are told. Evolution, I thought. Very strange. Well, let's continue and see if they clear this up for us a little bit. What is this? You gotta be kidding me. Not only are there so many people that can draw up a winning design, there are also two Henrys that are so incredible that they can win this competition. This is another example of the AI generating names. Fake characters all over the place. They create these names that are duplicates, reoccurring, and nobody ever questioned it. Until now. We have shown this many times. I think my favorite example is in episode 43, when they show all of the Fredericks. And I'm gonna get back to this Henry Cobb guy after we're done with this building, because he was a busy character. For this insane narrative, construction began in June of 1892, after the pretend political controversy kicked Henry number 1 out for the better option of Henry number 2. So the project for the tallest building in the United States of America, reaching a height of nearly 400 feet, begins in June of 1892 and is all wrapped up by Henry II in just 3 years, when it is now occupied in 1895. Now let's dive into this and show everyone how insane this fake narrative really is. We are told that cream city brick was used for the exterior of the building. They used limestone, of course, for the decorative elements and ornaments, particularly around the entrance and windows. And then we need to have granite. What would a building in the 1800s be without a massive amount of granite? So that's all great, but how much of these materials would they actually need in order to build the tallest building in the entire USA? We are told that they would need tens of thousands of cream city bricks and could have been in the range of several millions of bricks. Okay, right. And several hundred to several thousand cubic feet of limestone, and in the range of hundreds of cubic feet to over 1,000 cubic feet of granite. In order for the narrative to be logistically possible, we need all of these answers. So let's use their tool against them again, an AI ChatGPT. Let's see how long it would take the materials to get to the site in 1895, and see if this is logistically possible for Henry II to get this thing constructed in 3 years. The cream city brick is strange in itself, as they have ended all production of it since 1920, so we are told. Now, in my opinion, this brick was from the past civilization, and this is why the mainstream narrative has to explain it somehow, and say that we have been unable to recreate it for over 100 years, when in reality, our civilization has never been able to create the cream city brick. Now, it's all over Milwaukee, so they say that it was sourced in Milwaukee. For the sake of argument, let's just go with it for a minute. Saying that it would take a few weeks to a couple months to produce several millions, which we were told earlier, of cream brick, and transport it to the site. A couple weeks to produce this cream brick in the 1800s. But we can't do it anymore? Do you find that odd? I do. So then we have the limestone, which would take several months to a year or more to extract the several thousands of cubic feet of limestone and transport it to the site. Remember, the entire 400-foot building, we were told, was constructed in 3 years. There is zero room for error here in this insane mainstream narrative timeline. Now we have the granite, which they told us Henry II would require over 1,000 cubic feet of. This would take several months to a year to get it all to the site in the 1800s. So just getting all of these materials to the site would be wrapped up in, let's say, a year in this supposed timeline. If everything went perfect, which we are fully aware at this point that this was always the case before we came along. There was never an issue for the horse and wagon community. And Henry can't build this thing himself in 2 years, once all the materials get there. So of course, he's going to need some construction workers, which we are never told about for some weird reason. But let's see what this would have looked like if the mainstream narrative ever told us the full truth. We would need skilled craftsmen, laborers, supervisors and engineers, specialized trades such as blacksmiths, glassworkers, and artists. Then you have the equipment operators and support staff, such as, clerks and accountants, to make sure we don't go flying over the budget, and for proper documentation. Now, we have called the Illinois State Archives in episode 44, and we have proven that they do not keep records on these buildings. So what's going on here? Why aren't any of these extremely important people ever mentioned in the narrative? We are always given some magical architect, and in this case, multiple architects, both named Henry, but never anything else. Never a great artist, never an incredible engineer, and never a mention of any bookkeeper. You would think that one narrative would mention it, since these buildings are all incredible and still standing. And in this case, we have a building that was the tallest in the entire USA, yet their website gives us none of this, and we are supposed to just accept it blindly. How about no? We are not just sitting around accepting the lie anymore. Let's ask their tool how long this would actually take. It should say 3 years, since that is how long we are told that it took. But if you follow actual logistics, following real construction protocol, and not fairy tale nonsense that we have been told, then you are going to get a very different answer, a much more honest answer, a much more logistical answer. And here we go. After everything that we have discussed, and also adding in that there are seasonal factors, Milwaukee weather is not the greatest for construction project in the winters. Work might have been suspended or slowed down during the winter months. Okay, so they most likely built it in less than 3 years because of the winter months. Interesting. Using actual logistics, asking real questions that need to be answered. Let's see who the AI ChatGPT agrees with. The mainstream history that we have been force-fed all of our lives, or us? Asking real logistical questions. Given these considerations, A realistic timeline for the construction of the Milwaukee City Hall in the late 19th century might have been around 5 to 7 years. And there we have it. Not even close to the 3-year mark. In fact, it is more realistic that it would have taken twice as long. Wow. We have done this a few times now where we ask the ChatGPT questions like this. And it becomes clearer and clearer that none of these buildings were ever built in less than 5 years. And the fact that this is what we're told gives it all away. That this is impossible. And that we are most likely spot on. That a previous, much more advanced civilization with incredible tools, and they did not ride around on horses and wagons, were the true builders of these old world structures. And our civilization is a bunch of founders that claimed these buildings as our own. I don't think that the narrator ever thought that we would go through these narratives, dissecting them down to the smallest detail, asking questions that need to be answered for it to be true. It's incredible, all over the world. And I love that we are all seeing the truth now. This is a growing community by the day, because once you see it, you don't go back to unseeing it. The massive growth is proving that the lie is drowning, and we have had enough of it. We are finding the truth about our past, and the truth that this place that we live is incredible. It's filled with perfection, and we have been distracted from it for far too long. When you walk down the street, you will now see the previous civilization's work in your city, because they are honestly everywhere, and they deserve our attention. Henry Cobb, the first Henry that we were given, is a character that needs to be covered. Here we are given a list of buildings that Cobb is credited with knocking out over 100 years ago. There is one specifically that caught my eye, and that is the Chicago Federal Building. And let's take a look at this picture for a minute. We have shown this type of nonsense before, so let's do it again. They show this fake wagon sitting on the dirt road with more people that are identical next to each other in white. These are not real people. They are all photoshopped. If we zoom in on it, you can clearly see that they are duplicates. They are copy-pasted. And the other one is all glitched out. And who just stands in the middle of a road anyway? None of it fits in. You have a massive building, yet you have horse and wagon, and you have dirt roads. If it rains, the dirt is going to become so wet, and you will not be moving any limestone. Yet this was never an issue for the mainstream narrative. The dirt is always looking like it had just been raked and perfected for the photo. There's a dirt road down the street from my house, and they have to fix that thing all the time. Otherwise, there's massive holes in it. There are no holes in this picture. It's a perfect dirt road. I'm at the point where I'm gonna say that this was prepared for the photo in our new civilization. The dirt is sitting on top of the past civilization's work. These buildings are under the dirt. They are much bigger than we can see. This is not the original road. It's all backwards. The road always comes first in construction, because you need to be able to access the construction site. This is obvious stuff that the narrative ignores. Like we said, getting the materials there and the machinery would be nearly impossible with dirt roads and donkeys and wagons. If it snows or rains, then just forget about it. Other than a few fake people, a couple fake wagons and a light post. This is in Chicago, and we all know that Shalaga is not abandoned. There are literally no people in this photo. My point is that if this is true, that these are Photoshop people in wagons, which it's looking more and more clear that this is the case, then was this the very first picture of this building for our current civilization to see? It's strange, especially when we hear the story about the building. The Chicago Federal Building. Look at the size of this thing. Constructed in just 7 years, of course. Well, I guess that's better than the last story, but come on. After 7 years, they still couldn't throw a road down? It's weird. And what is this? The 1905 building was demolished in 1965, only 50 years after its construction, and replaced by the Kluck-Ziske Federal Building. Are they joking? This building was outdated after 50 years? Oh, and here's the Kluck-Ziske building that is just bursting with architecture and incredible craftsmanship that our civilization is known for. The perfection of the 90-degree angles is just amazing. I don't even know how we pulled this kind of building off. I'm sure we needed many contests for this building. The winner was a pure genius. One of a kind. And all right, you get the point. That this thing is pathetic. I think that any one of us could have drawn this piece of trash up when we were 5. It's an embarrassment. And to knock down the brand new Chicago Federal Building for this is insane. Obviously, the Chicago Federal Building was not constructed by our civilization's timeline. And